Hi, my name's Eric, and I'll be reading you selections from the e-edition of today's Cape Cod Times. Today's date is Monday, December 2nd of 2024. We'll start with the weather, as we always do. And across the Cape and Islands today, it'll be sunny with a high of 40 degrees expected. Tonight in the low overnight, it will be down to 27 degrees, clear to partly cloudy. Tomorrow, Tuesday, cold with intervals of clouds and sun, high of 38, a low of 25. On Wednesday, breezy with a afternoon snow shower and snow at night. So here we go for snowfall. Didn't happen till much later, I believe, last year. Wednesday's high of 39 will be matched with a low in the overnight of 36. On Thursday, windy with a snow shower in the morning, a high of 42 and a low of 25. And on Friday, mostly sunny, windy, and colder with a high of 32 degrees and a low of 20 degrees. So we have some weather coming up this week. Not necessarily today or tomorrow, just chilly, but then Wednesday and Thursday, yes, we will have snow. The sun will rise at 6:50 a.m. today. It will set at 4:11 p.m. We'll have 9 hours and 21 minutes of daylight. Now heading to the front of the paper, where the news and, of course, the lottery results are kept, and we read the lottery results because somebody asked for them. If there's something you would like read to people who are blind or print impaired, you can email us at info@audiblelocalledger.org or call us at 508-539-2030. That's 508-539-2030, and we'll consider reading it. And if you miss any of the information that we share in our readings, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org, our disability-compliant website, and click on the Listen tab, and you'll find a week's worth of our newspaper readings for you to catch up on, as well as a wide variety of periodicals and literature that stay up there in perpetuity. We also keep our grocery guides up there for what's on sale at the grocery store. All of that is free for people who are blind or print disabled at audiblelocalledger.org. For the latest lottery results, we go to masslottery.com because the Cape Cod Times goes to press too early to give you the latest results. You certainly deserve them if you ask for them. So for the numbers game of Sunday, December 1st, in the midday drawing, the results were 8, 5, 4, 3. Again, yesterday's midday drawing numbers game results, 8, 5, 4, 3. Last night's evening drawing of the numbers game for Sunday, December 1st, 0, 5, 1, 3. Again, last night's evening drawing numbers game results, 0, 5, 1, 3. Mass cash for Sunday, December 1st, 2, 3, 16, 27, and 30. And Lucky for Life rounds out our lottery results for Sunday, December 1st of 2024 with 1, 7, 25, 33, and 46, with 7, the bonus number. Good luck to all who play. Remember us if you win. From the front page of today's Cape Cod Times, Anthony's in Yarmouthport has a lot of history to tell. Lived, slept, dined, by Rachel Devaney. A stately home built in 1899 on 5 acres overlooking Mill Pond in Yarmouthport had a full life for more than 100 years, but a fire on November 3rd brought the vacant and neglected building to its end. In its early days, the estate, as recalled by a neighbor, had large stables with horses and then cars and chauffeurs and beautiful formal gardens. Historic Society of Old Yarmouth Administrator Liz Fort said, "It was the home of Gorham Bacon, a physician in New York City. Around 1950, the home at 2 Route 6A was converted to an inn. In 1975, it became Anthony's Cummaquid Inn, a restaurant. Yarmouth Fire Chief Enrique Orascu said that the investigation into the cause of the fire is ongoing. Arson Watch is offering a reward in hopes of attaining credible information about the fire, he said. There were no known civilian injuries, and a firefighter was treated at the scene for a minor injury. The property is owned by Anthony's Pier 4 Inc. in Swampscott, according to town records. Offices of the company did not return calls and emails which were asking for comment. Who was Gorham Bacon? Bacon was an eye, ear, and nose doctor, according to state records. He was considered one of the foremost specialists in the world. He built the colonial revival-style building in Yarmouth Port as a single-family home for his wife, who was a Simpkins, according to Fort. The property at the time ran far across 6A, and it included the house Mr. Woodward lives in. Mrs. Woodward came here as a young girl with her father, Gustav Carlson, who was head caretaker for the estate, said Fort. Bacon, according to the Century Association Archives Foundation, served as surgeon of the New York Eye and Ear Infirmary for 37 years and as a professor of otology at the College of Physicians and Surgeons. In 1898, Bacon published a manual of otology, which ran through several editions according to the foundation. Bacon would eventually retire in Yarmouth Port and was buried at Woodside Cemetery. How did the Bacon House become an inn? Around 1950, Bacon's house ceased to be a private home and it became Cummaquid Inn, according to the Massachusetts Historical Commission. It remained an inn through the 1960s and 70s, and its owners included Walter Scharf and Joseph Curtis. It was a very nice place to eat with beautiful views, and they hosted many formal occasions like weddings, proms, and anniversaries and retirement parties, said Fort. In 1975, Anthony Athanas purchased the estate and renamed the business Anthony's Cummaquid Inn. Later, the name changed to Anthony's, said Fort. Many locals worked there, cooking, waitressing, bussing tables, said Fort. They were known for their wonderful popovers that were served with dinner, Fort said. In 1937, Athanas opened his first restaurant, Anthony's Hawthorne in Lynn. Athanas then opened Hawthorne by the Sea in 1946 and the General Glover House in 1957. Both were in Swampscott. In 1963, Athanas opened what would become his flagship restaurant, Anthony's Pier 4, in Boston. Athanas, who died in 2005, immigrated to the United States from Albania in 1915 at age 5 and settled in New Bedford, according to his restaurant website. His first jobs were peddling fruit and vegetables from a cart, selling newspapers, and lighting wood and coal ovens in restaurant kitchens. He worked his way through various positions in restaurants and hotels through New England and back, and New York. Anthony's Cummaquid Inn was the last establishment Athanas opened in 1975. The restaurant closed December 31st of 2015 to undergo renovations, and it remained closed in 2017 amid a dispute with a contractor. In 2008, a group investigating how the Pilgrims established the boundaries of the first Cape Cod towns found a large, flat granite boulder in the marsh mud behind Anthony's Cummaquid Inn. Engraved on the top of the rock were the letters Y and B, with a small X in the middle. Chatham historian Michael Farber and Cape Cod Lighthouse charter school teacher Danielle Garin believe the boulder may have been etched by pilgrims in the early 17th century to mark the Yarmouth-Barnstable boundary line. At the time, Farber said he believed the rock may date back to 1641 when pilgrims Edward Winslow, Miles Standish, and Edmund Freeman were sent to Yarmouth by Governor William Bradford to settle the bounds of Yarmouth and Barnstable. In an effort to keep it local, we'll move to the Cape and Islands section. Marston's Mills woman accused of waving a rubber gun at golfers, by Heather McCarran. 39-year-old Marston's Mills woman is facing charges stemming from an encounter involving a rubber gun and a pair of golfers at the Old Barnstable Fairgrounds golf course in Marston's Mills on Wednesday, according to Barnstable police. The woman was scheduled to be arraigned in Barnstable District Court on Friday on 2 counts of assault by means of a dangerous weapon, a firearm. On Wednesday afternoon at about 3:38 p.m., police responded to a report of a woman waving a pistol at 2 young men playing golf at the course on Route 149, according to police. The victims told responding officers that as they were playing their round of golf, a woman appeared from the wood line yelling at them to stay out of her yard. police said in a statement that was issued Thursday. The golfers told police that when they responded that they weren't in the women's yard, she began waving and pointing what appeared to be a black pistol at them. After the incident was reported, police shut down part of nearby Race Lane, which bounds the southern side of the golf course, to search for the woman. An investigation led police to the woman's house, which they surrounded. She exited the house without incident and was taken into custody. A subsequent search of her home turned up 2 rubber guns and a replica pistol magazine, police said. After she was booked on the 2 charges, the woman was released on personal recognizance pending her arraignment, police reported. The other story is from the photo shoot collection. Friday Club's Thanksgiving Pie Sale, a long-standing tradition, by Steve Heslip. Like it or not, the season of traditions is here. Thanksgiving to New Year's. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines tradition as the handing down of information, beliefs, and customs by word of mouth or example from one generation to another without written instructions. Growing up in my house, we had written directions. My school teacher mother was an organizer, possessed with perfect penmanship. So when it came time for her sons to carry on the Heslip holiday traditions into the next generation, everything was legibly labeled and neatly packed. Expectations are high this time of year as everyone strives for a Norman Rockwell holiday, a perfectly set table with smiling faces around that table, picture-perfect turkey as the centerpiece. Heading down the long slide of December towards 2025, there are bound to be a few bumps and bruises, but there's help out there. Find a local bake sale. A favorite photo tradition has been the annual Thanksgiving Pie Sale at the Friday Club in Yarmouthport. The group will celebrate its centennial year in 2026, and I venture to guess a lot of pies have crossed the threshold of its neat white building along Route 6A. The doors open promptly at 10 a.m., with savvy shoppers arriving early to get their place in line, which queues up at the side door. I always arrive early to take in the scene and the aroma. The interior reminds me of a trip to my grandmother's house. Willow-ware china is sorted neatly into glass-fronted cabinets as the low-angle November sun shines through the lace-fringed curtains, lighting up the fresh pies. Club members set out the pies and goodies as founding members in starched collars stare down from old photos on the walls. Late-arriving pies come in warm from the oven as the line snakes out longer. This year, 49 pies and 38 other baked items lay in wait. Veteran pie purchasers were ready. First in line, Mary Beth O'Hearn waited with a laundry basket ready to fill. Like the running of the brides at the old Filene's store, most of the items were snatched up quickly. The line now was for checkout. 30 minutes later, the annual frenzy was gone. Smiling faces headed home, knowing some of their baking was already done and holiday season has begun. Keeping it regional, jobless claims in Massachusetts tick up. Initial filings for unemployment benefits in Massachusetts rose for the week ending November 22nd compared with a week prior, the U.S. Department of Labor said on Thursday. New jobless claims, which is a proxy for layoffs, increased to 6,533, up from 5,924 the week before, the Labor Department said. U.S. unemployment claims dropped to 213,000 for that time frame, down 2,000 claims from 215,000 the week prior on a seasonally adjusted basis. North Dakota saw the largest percentage increase in weekly claims, with claims jumping by 74%. South Carolina, meanwhile, saw the largest percentage drop in new claims, with claims dropping by 40.7%. We'll move to a different kind of local news now, the obituaries that are printed in that day's edition of the Cape Cod Times. The first obituaries of Harold J. Tarabelli of Centerville, formerly of Arlington, who passed on Thursday, November 28th, surrounded by his loving family at the age of 99. He was devoted husband of the late Kathleen Tarabelli for 62 years. Funeral will be from the Rogers and Hutchins Funeral Home, 292 Mass Ave in Arlington on Wednesday, December 4th at 10:30 a.m. A funeral mass will follow at St. Agnes's Church, 32 Medford Street in Arlington at 11:30 a.m. Visiting hours at the funeral home in Arlington on Tuesday, December 3rd will be from 4 to 7 p.m. Harold was a proud U.S. Army World War II veteran and a Bronze Star recipient. In lieu of flowers, any donations in his memory may be made to the MSPCA at 1577 Falmouth Road in Centerville, Mass. Thank you for your service, Mr. Tarabelli. The other obituary in today's Cape Cod Times of December 2nd is of Michelle E. Perrault of Rockland, who at the age of 74 passed on November 16th, survived by her adoring husband Mark Cunningham of Rockland. A visitation will be held Saturday, December 14th, in the Quealy and Son Funeral Home, located at 116 Adams Street in Abington, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. It will be followed by a funeral home service at 12 p.m. And that concludes the obituaries and death notices listed in today's Cape Cod Times of December 2nd. We've completed all of the local news. We will move to the national news and regional. Trump made big gains in the Bay State is the cover story on the Cape Cod Times today. Massachusetts working class shifts toward the right by Carissa Waddick in Lynn. Mark Callahan has voted Democrat in nearly every presidential election he can remember until this year. Callahan, who's 67, cast his ballot for President-elect Donald Trump because concerns about rising costs of living and fears that Democratic leaders didn't have a plan to fix the economy. A longtime resident of Lynn, a suburb just 4 miles north of the liberal enclave of Boston, Callahan said he isn't sure whether Trump's policy proposals will lower prices at the pump or in the grocery aisle, but he's hopeful the former president will at least make a change. Everything was too expensive, and what we had wasn't working, Callahan said as he stood on a cracked sidewalk, lining a row of local takeout restaurants and convenience stores in the suburbs downtown. As the dust of the 2024 election settles, the rightward bent of voters like Callahan in historically liberal-leaning states has laid bare the sweeping nature of the Democratic Party's problems with its once trusty base of working-class voters. Those challenges, felt predominantly in the blue wall states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania after the 2016 election, have now emerged in hundreds of former Union and Democratic strongholds across the country, even in places like deep blue Massachusetts. Massachusetts is one of the most liberal states in the country. In 1972, it was the only state that voted for Democratic presidential candidate George McGovern over Republican Richard Nixon. The last time the state voted for a Republican presidential candidate was in 1984 for Ronald Reagan. The state overwhelmingly voted for the Democratic candidate, Vice President Kamala Harris, again in this year's election, yet it also experienced one of the most profound rightward shifts of any state in the country, largely driven by a rise in new Trump voters across working-class communities and a drop in Democratic turnout. Garrett Nelson, a historical geographer who focuses on the relationship between community structures and political ideology, analyzed the election results and U.S. Census Bureau demographic data for Massachusetts municipalities to better understand which communities lurched more conservative. No matter what method he uses to define class, the results were similar. Massachusetts saw a pattern that happened all across the country, said Dash Nelson, the head curator at the Leventhal Map and Education Center at Boston Public Library. The reality is that the pattern of Republican gains being concentrated primarily in working class, oftentimes diverse working class municipalities, holds up. Communities with a higher percentage of people in service occupations, lower median household incomes, and less education generally saw a larger uptick in votes for Trump than more wealthy white-collar areas. Lawrence, a former mill town with deep connections to the labor movement, saw the most defined shift out of any city in Massachusetts, with a whopping 46% rise in Trump votes. It's 80% Latino. The city's median household income is $53,977. That's nearly half the state's overall median annual income of about $100,000. Springfield, a city in southwestern Massachusetts, saw a 16% jump to Trump. More than 25% of people in the city work in typically blue-collar service occupations, including hospitality jobs at the MGM casino in the area. Lynn saw a more than 11% increase in support for Trump. Roughly 15% of people in the 101,000-person city have a college degree. That's significantly less than the 48% of people across the whole state who hold a bachelor's degree or higher. Jim Gigliello, 48, and Curran Bennett, 28, said they were relieved when Trump won the election. As the pair unloaded a dresser from the back of their pickup truck and finished out their last maintenance job of the week on a recent Friday afternoon, they admitted that they had been nervous about what would happen after the 2024 election. It just didn't seem like any of the politicians had anything that would benefit us, said Curran, who lives in Malden, but often works in Lynn. The working class people, Gigliello added. They just forgot about us. Gigliello, who lives in Revere, said he hadn't voted for a Democratic presidential candidate since the 90s when he supported former President Bill Clinton. But for the last few decades, Gigliello said he felt like Democratic leaders had been too focused on talking about social issues rather than dealing with larger issues like the economy. It's a refrain Representative Seth Moulton, who represents Lynn and its neighboring communities in northeastern Massachusetts, has heard again and again over the last several years. The feeling is that Republicans are focused more on the urgent challenges that people face, said Moulton, referring to issues like immigration and the economy. In the immediate days after the election, Moulton told the New York Times that he believed Democrats had leaned too far into culture war and identity politics issues. He received backlash from some in his party for saying that he would be nervous about transgender women athletes playing on the same team as his two daughters. Moulton has argued that response has proved his point. A lot of Democrats have taken on an incredibly condescending tone and treated everybody who disagrees with them as not only wrong, but as bad people, he said. We've got to do a lot less preaching and a lot more listening. Republicans in the state have also taken notice, and they're trying to capitalize on concerns. Jennifer Nassour, the former chair of the Massachusetts GOP, said she's hopeful that Republicans in the state legislature can build off the recent rightward shift in the state. We need to be cognizant of the fact that, voters are looking for specific things, and identity politics isn't it, Nassour said. It's a big tent approach, and if we can continue on that path, there's really great opportunities for Republicans come 2026. Massachusetts saw a rise in conservative-leaning Trump voters, but it also saw a drop in Democratic turnout in the 2024 election. George Marcos, 65 years old, was among those who opted not to vote. Marcos, the owner of Brothers Deli in Lynn, was visiting his home country of Greece during the election and didn't cast an absentee ballot. A former Democrat, Marcos said he no longer belongs to either party. He doesn't believe national politics has much of an effect on him. When asked how he felt about Trump winning the election, Marcos said, "Won't change my life." Moulton believes building trust with voters like Marcos, who've become disillusioned with the party and politics in general, is key to winning back working-class communities. There's a simmering distrust among many Americans of the Democratic Party, he said. Even if they like our policies better, they just don't trust us to take America's challenges seriously enough. Our next headline, dental therapists may help tribal needs, a new profession not approved in all states, by Frank Vesvius of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Maintaining good dental health has been difficult in tribal communities, but the introduction of a new kind of dental provider in Wisconsin may provide some help. There are 12 tribal clinics in Wisconsin, funded either by tribes or the Federal Indian Health Service, and 9 of the areas serviced by these clinics have been designated as having shortages of dentists, according to the Wisconsin Dental Association. The Wisconsin Department of Health Services also has identified areas having shortages of dental care, and these included rural areas and some urban areas, and again, tribal areas. The areas in the state where there are virtually no shortages are the suburbs and collar counties of urban areas, such as Milwaukee and Madison. Dr. Patrick Teep, a dentist who is chair of the State Dental Association's Legislative Advocacy Committee, said the problem's not actually a shortage of dentists in the state, it's where they're located. Most tribal clinics are more remote and rural, and it's a challenge to attract dentists to those areas, he said. They'll have to be accepting of the rural lifestyle. One way to help alleviate dental care needs in tribal communities is through dental therapists, who are licensed or certified mid-level providers working under the supervision of dentists. They provide routine and preventative dental care, such as cleanings, fillings, and crowns. Dental therapists are still a relatively new phenomenon and aren't approved to practice in every state. Governor Tony Evers signed the bill in April that allows dental therapists to practice in Wisconsin, but the practice still has to be approved by the Wisconsin Dentistry Examining Board, which will regulate the profession. Teep said he expects dental therapists will be officially approved to practice in the state sometime in 2025. North Central Technical College in Wausau is developing a dental therapy program, and it'll take 12 to 18 months for that to be approved for accreditation, Teep said. Students will need to complete at least 30 months of educational training. In the meantime, Teep expects dental therapists from other states, such as Minnesota, which approved dental therapists in 2009, to apply for jobs in Wisconsin if their practice is approved next year. But Teep said only licensed dentists can perform tooth extractions, and he added that people in underserved communities, such as in tribal reservations, tend to have higher rates of dental complications that require extractions. Dental therapists can help, but they can't do everything a dentist can, he said. There is some evidence that dental therapists have helped to improve dental care in tribal communities. Dr. Donald Chi, a Seattle-based dentist, recently completed a study of how dental therapists performed in tribal communities in Alaska, which in 2006 became the first state to approve dental therapists. What we found in areas where dental therapists were providing care was that people were keeping their teeth longer, so that they were less likely to get teeth extracted, he said, and they were more likely to get preventive care. Chi said Alaska, like Wisconsin and other states, has large swaths of populations that don't have access to good dental care, and dental therapists can help address that. He also said a return to more traditional diets can help tribal communities address poor dental health and other health issues. Documents show that cavities were not a problem historically in indigenous communities, Chi said. It wasn't until refined sugar was introduced that the cavity epidemic really took off. In addition to dental therapists possibly helping to alleviate dental health needs in tribal and rural communities, Teep said that the WDA is partnering with Marquette University through a rural scholarship program to attract more dentists to underserved areas. That scholarship provides $30,000 per year for 4 years for dental students if they commit to work in a rural area for at least 18 months for each year that they accept the scholarship. And with that, we've come to the end of our reading of the Cape Cod Times. Not much local news in it today, the date being December 2nd, a Monday of 2024. This is your reader, Eric, saying be well, be safe, look after each other. Remember our veterans, especially those we've lost recently. Bye for now.